go ahead and I'd like to introduce our speaker. And so he's, I think the dishes are mostly cleared, and that should be the noisy part. And your dessert will be coming while you listen to Franz. And I could tell you a little bit about him and his books. A lot of you already know. At one point in his young, charmed life, he had the world by the tail. And then it kind of turned around and bit him. So just a few days before his planned wedding, the fiancé disappeared. And as Franz says in the introduction to his second book, he's now made a career out of being a jilted bridegroom. But he was inspired to travel the world with his brother. It started by going on a honeymoon trip with his brother. Hey, it was already paid for. And off they went. And that led to 2 years of worldwide travel, going through Europe, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, South America, and Africa. Along the way, he got to know his brother in a way that he had never had before. His best travel tip: throw away the guidebooks, talk to the locals. So with that, I'll let Franz entertain you.
Thanks, Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm a jilted groom. I need a hug. Any hug I can get, please. Thank you very much, Sally. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, you all for lowering your standards and inviting me here today. No, the last time, I say that in all honesty, because the last time I did an event with y'all, the event was canceled the next year, right? So I hope it wasn't cause and effect, and I hope this year goes a little bit better. It's true, Sally is correct. I am the only man in America in the world that's made a career out of getting dumped at the altar. For those of you who don't know the crazy beginnings of this story, it started up in Sea Ranch, California. You all know Sea Ranch, north of San Francisco. Beautiful place, right? Tough to get to, right? Kind of place you need to bring in food and wine from Napa, and the flowers from San Francisco, and the bagpiper from Monterey or wherever he was coming from. And so it's also the type of place where you need to make reservations, months in advance. So when my bride-to-be said she wasn't going to be my bride-to-be, when she dumped me, it was so close to the wedding that I started calling people. And I had 150 people coming to this wedding, right? My nearest and dearest friends. I started calling people, and they told me things like this. They said, "Oh, we feel so sorry for you. My heart goes out. If there's anything we can do, let me know. No offense, but we're still coming." No. I remember, she's not going to come to the wedding. They're like, I know, but we've got those cabins rented up at Sea Ranch, and Sea Ranch is beautiful this time of year. And by the way, is the wine there? And so my brother's the one who had this crazy idea to go ahead and have a brideless wedding weekend. Anyhow, there are advantages. And of the 150 people that I had invited to this wedding, 75 of them showed up. Right? So basically my side of the aisle, you. And thank you for being there. You made a surreal weekend where I was experiencing everything. I was confused, I was depressed, I was heartbroken, I was embarrassed, a little bit relieved, broke. But you made a really surreal experience meaningful in that, how many times in our lives do we get everybody that means something to us in one room, right? Twice, right? Your wedding and your funeral. And you don't really enjoy the latter. So thank you for coming. You made me feel better, at least until the next week when I got dumped at my work, the two loves of my life. So I did something truly crazy and came home and told my brother, hey, let's go on a honeymoon. And he said, with whom? And I said, no, you don't understand. I said, I got honeymoon suites. I got, roses. I got champagne. He says, whoa. Honeymoon suites have one bed, right? And oftentimes it's heart-shaped. And I love you and I want to help you out. but there ain't no way I'm spending 2 weeks in a heart-shaped bed with you in Costa Rica. So he said, no, don't worry about it. So we took off on my honeymoon, which was supposed to be 2 weeks in Costa Rica, and had such a good time rebonding as brothers, exploring the country, clearing our heads, that we decided to extend that honeymoon for 2 years in 53 countries, as Sally mentioned. Tossed the guidebooks, spooned my brother, and not quite how I thought my honeymoon would go, but life-changing and inspiring and wonderful. So at the very end, I got a job offer to go to my old job. I used to work in politics. I used to be a lobbyist. I was very corporate. My son Oscar, I told him the other day that I used to wear a tie every day. He couldn't believe it. But I got a job offer to go back to my old job, and I said no. I said, I'm on a different path right now. I want to do something along those lines. And so I decided to write a book, right? And I researched, I read all these articles about it. How do you get a book published? What do? You got to get an agent. You got to do a book proposal. Did all those things. Sent my proposal out to every single publisher, the big publishers in New York, and then promptly got rejected by every single one of them, right? And for the craziest reasons. One person said, interesting story, not the guy to write it. I'm like, who else was on the honeymoon? You want Kurt? He's not a writer, but he'll write it. Another person said, oh, I like the title, Honeymoon with My Brother, but the niche is too crowded. And I'm saying, what niche? Guy gets dumped at altar, goes on honeymoon with brother niche, To this day, I have no idea where my books are in bookstores. Libraries, they do a better job. I know where to find it. In Barnes & Noble, I'm in memoir. In a lot of independent bookstores, I'm in travel. In Borders, rest in peace, I'm in self-help. Maybe like the how not to section. But finally found a woman who said yes to my proposal. And she's an editor at St. Martin's Press, a woman who had edited such books as Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, everything I know I learned in kindergarten, Divine Secrets of Yaya Sisterhood, some really wonderful, thoughtful books. And she said yes. And so we rushed back to New York and to take her out to lunch to say thank you, and then broke down midway through this lunch and said, we just got to ask you, why just say yes? Everybody else said no to us. And she said this true story, that the only reason she said yes to this book was that she had a son who was in high school, and he'd just been dumped. Love of his life. Gets dumped. She said all of these emotions started pouring out of this kid, emotions that she didn't know existed in this kid. She said, I wanted to hug him and I wanted to learn more. She was like, it was like a new person. She said, your proposal hit my desk that day. At which point my brother says, God bless your son. And I'm like, no. God bless the woman who dumped your son. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have one book, let alone two. So went off and spent a year writing this book. Spent a lot of times in libraries. I was thinking about today and looking back over the years, how many libraries that, I've been in and spending time writing these books. The bulk of my work took place in libraries, especially when you're writing about the globe, and you want to get all those spellings correct, and you want to look at all those photo albums to inspire you. So thank you to all the libraries out there. And the book came out, and we had some fun success with it. We premiered on the Today Show, and Vanity Fair picked it as their book of the month, and Oprah had us on and everything. But the truth is that what really propelled Honeymoon with My Brother were the book clubs, right? And a lot of that met in the libraries. And it wasn't until, the book really took flight when it came out in paper book. A lot of book clubs say we only do paperbacks, right? That we started getting all these invitations from people around the country saying, hey, if you're ever in Fayetteville, Arkansas, If you're ever in Traverse City, Michigan, if you're ever in Fairhope, Alabama, we have a wonderful book club, and we meet, once a month, every Tuesday, second Tuesday of the month. We serve great wine. We serve homemade pie. Come, we'll serve you pie. We'll serve you wine, right? So my brother and I sent an email back to everybody who'd ever invited us to their book club and said, all right, we're coming. What day works? Then we loaded up his VW van, and we spent 4 months crisscrossing the country, doing events in hair salons and barbershops and bars and coffee shops and backyards. And, some were very formal, and they'd give you a list of the questions they wanted to ask. And then others were just like this big old party. I remember one, we were there for a couple hours before the host of the party came up to us and said, I haven't met you guys yet. I'm Linda, I'm the host of the party. And I said, oh, Franz, I wrote Honeymoon with my brother. She said, oh, that's right, there's a book club. We had a lot of really fun stops at libraries around the country, and a couple come to mind. One was in Fayetteville, Arkansas, brand new library, beautiful. We walk in, and the entire room, men and women, were wearing wedding veils. So thank you to the libraries. Libraries have been fun, and really helped propel us into the second book. This book spent about 4 months on the New York Times bestseller list, which was great. And such that the publisher called me up and they said, oh, we need another book out of you. When can you do another book? And I said, no. I'm not getting dumped at the altar again, right? I'm done spooning Kurt. Nice guy, but next time I go on a honeymoon, I want it, whoever it is, I want it not related, right? Not picky, just don't want it. No more honeymoons with brothers. So they said, no, write whatever you want to write about. And so I said, okay, I want to write about love. And they said, well, what's your criteria for writing about love? And I said, well, I'm a professional dumpee. And they said, all right, here's $20, go write about love. So I spent another year traveling around the globe just asking people about love, which I think is the most important topic on the planet. Young, old, rich, poor, gay, straight, urban, rural, you name it. Tell me your love story. Tell me what's important to you. And during that process, I did something that was great for my personal life. It was awful for my book in that I fell in love, right? And it was great for my personal life because I met an amazing woman who eventually said yes to my proposal and showed up to the altar. That was nice. It was terrible for my book because I was going to write this third-person look at love in dating around the world, and now all of a sudden it's very much a first-person look at love and dating, and the two love stories are intertwined, and I wrote a book called How the World Makes Love based on that, which has a very, very happy ending and some good end results, including my son Oscar, who's here today. Thank you, Oz. So like I mentioned, libraries have been a key part of my journey over all these years, including here. And I'm a huge, huge fan of libraries in general. And you're so right that there's so much more than they've been in the past. And it's almost like I want to change the name of a library because there's this connotation that it's just about books, right? Well, it ain't about books. The best libraries that we went to are community hubs. They're the soul of a community. They're movie houses and retreats and escapes and social service centers, aid centers, place to catch your breath on a hot day, take your son to do a little bit of homework. And I think that your role is more important than ever. Both when you see what's happening in our communities around the country and fewer services and everything's getting cut, people are relying on you more than ever. And I think especially now, too, in this day and age of high tech, when we are obsessed with technology and social media and the instant and top 10 lists and the little tidbits, it's like we're addicted to junk food, right? Well, you all are a meal, right? And we need a meal. And so I salute you for what you've done and what you're going to do. Your role is huge, hugely important. Thank you, Kay. Another thing that I think that libraries do that's really important, that I want to spend a little bit of time today and finish my remarks talking to you about, is they help us tell our own story, right? We all have a story, and we all need to share that story. We were talking, today at lunch that, so much, I know so many of you feel this the same way as well, that there's like this story inside, right? And it's like, it's knocking and it wants to get out, right? Well, you got to let it out. And libraries really help us do that. How many people here like stories? Exactly. Well, what if I told you that not only do you like stories, you're addicted to stories? It's true. What if I told you it's impossible for you to see the world in any way other than story, right? And it's a combination of nature and nurture. We, as young kids, our parents read to us, when we were much younger than Ozzy. And we've been told stories throughout our lives. Brush your teeth and your teeth will be okay. Get good grades and you'll go to a school. Put your money in the bank and this will happen. Save up. But it's also nature as well, in that our brain releases chemicals when we hear a conflict. And it's not because we're obsessed with that conflict, is we're obsessed with resolution, right? All art, or most art, is conflict resolution. A good story is conflict resolution. We just want to see, we're so used to that resolution that we want to see how things turn out. It's like why we're in the supermarket or on a plane and we hear this fight, right? Even if we're doing something else, what do? What's going on over here? We have to have that resolution, right? And we are walking stories. We're living, breathing stories. And we are inventing these stories every day, right? And I think libraries play a huge, huge role in that, in helping us shape, who we are. What is our story? What story do we want to share? When my wife and kids and I moved to town about a year and a half ago, we moved to Cayucas from Brooklyn, which are, I can't think of two more different places. We have a lot of family here in town and wanted to be closer to family, and just wanted a fun, special place, and had the luxury of choosing here. But one of the first things I did, I went over to Cal Poly and started talking to the folks over there about doing a writers program. And it's because on so many of the tours, I met so many people who had a great story, right? Who wanted to share it, or who were processing something, or had the death of a loved one, or had just, fought cancer and won, or just wanted to pass down some stories to family and friends, needed to share it. And to every single one of them, they'd say, "Hey, I got a story for you." And I'd listen, and then I'd say, "You got to get that thing out, man. That's dying to get out. Get it out." So we started up a program called the Writers Program over at Cal Poly, and we started offering workshops and classes on like how to craft a memoir. And from the beginning, we said, "All right, we want this to be open to anybody. Doesn't matter your experience or your writing ability." And we want it to be open to anybody, no matter the project they want to do, whether they want to write a bestseller or they want to do something self-published, they want to write a family album, or even if they just want to organize, a scrapbook or a photo album to pass on. Everybody's welcome. Come over, we'll tell you how to tell a story. And we've succeeded in that and have started to offer workshops and classes, and I love the range of folks. It's been everybody from teenagers to, I had one on Saturday, and I just wanted to read a little note I got back. "Franz, I came to your class yesterday while thinking I had finished a complete manuscript of my memoir. I was pleased to learn that I have done some things correctly according to your instructions. However, I found out that now I have more work to do. Your instructions turned out to be a good critique of my writing without you even having read it. I hope that I can use it successfully. Now, being 97 years of age, one is faced with so many memories." That's what I said. 97, he's taking classes. I sent him back a note. Man, how inspiring. Love that. I hope I'm taking classes at 97. I hope I'm here at 97. And so that's been hugely rewarding to do that. We try to do these classes now on the weekends, so we're getting people from Santa Barbara and Monterey and all over. And we're even doing things where this October we're doing our first program abroad over in Dublin. And it's going to be a week-long series of workshops where we're all staying at a hotel. We're going to do memoir classes in the morning. Then we're going to go visit a literary landmark in the afternoon and then wash it down at a literary pub at night. Right? They're calling that program Get Lit in Dublin. And so my point is that whether it's going with us to Dublin or a class here or on your own or getting a book or through the library, if you have a story, share your story. You'll be amazed how much your story resonates with others. You know, you throw these stories out there and you think, who cares about, my life? That's what I thought on a story. I get emails all the time from people who say, I read your story, I booked a trip, I called my brother, I wasn't going to call him, he inspired me to do it. They take a life of their own, right? You put them out in the universe and they will inspire people. Writing and sharing my story, it hasn't made me rich. It hasn't made me famous. But it's the most important thing I've ever done, by far. And so if any of you have that voice inside you that's knocking to get it out, I would encourage you all to do so. Thank you very much. I think we have a little bit of time for questions, and then I'm also happy to hang out and sign some books for birthday gifts, book clubs, who name it. I'll even have Ozzy sign if he wants to sign. Woo!
Did you keep a diary while you were traveling? Like to go back and remember all?
I didn't, and it was a blessing and a curse, in that it was a curse that when it came time to write a book, I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have written a diary. It was a blessing in that it was real, and it was spontaneous, and it was organic. And what really saved me, I wrote a lot of essays during the trip, and that saved me, but also my brother's a photographer, and so his photos triggered a lot of memories. So that was really, really helpful. On the second book I took a lot more notes.
Another question maybe on the side, but in your book, in the end, you see Annie at the airport with her husband.
Right.
Once the book came out, have there been any communication with her on that?
You got to read the second book. No, to answer your minimal. I mean, I know that media have tracked her down, and it is a fictitious name, which you can do that if you're writing a memoir. Change the names if you don't want to get sued. And I know that she's declined any media interviews and told a mutual friend that she wishes me the best. She just doesn't want anything to do with it. And I've tried in the media appearances and the tours and stuff to say thanks, because I think she did me a huge favor, saved me a lot of money. But I think too that in a lot of ways the dumpee gets a lot of the sympathy. The dumper has the harder job, but is doing both parties a good job in that, saying, hey, you know what, this doesn't feel right. She had the courage to do that. I definitely did not.
In your first book,
Yeah.
you write a lot to your grandmother LaRue.
All right.
Now, is that a mechanism for the book, or did you actually write those letters?
Well, that's a great question. For those of you who haven't read the book, well, shame on you. But the star of the book, you're 100% right, it is our 98-year-old grandmother LaRue. She lived in a retirement home, and we went into her right when we were thinking about going on this honeymoon, and we said, "Hey, LaRue, guess what? We're going on a honeymoon." And she said, "All right, I'll go with you." I said, "No, wait, okay, sure, come along, you know." And she said, "No, what I want you to do, send me a postcard wherever you go. I'm going to buy a map of the world. I'm going to put the pins in your port wherever you send me a postcard from, right? I'll share the postcards with the retirement home. I'll go with you. We'll all go with you." And to a person, they said, "God, I wish I did something like that when I was your age. You know, I have a brother now. We plan to travel. He passed away. You know, I have the time. I have the money. I don't have the body to do it." And, was a huge inspiration to us. But when it came time to writing the book, I'll be honest, I didn't have plans to really even include her. I thought it was more of a story about the road. But then I remember I sent in my first draft, and my editor, in big, bold letters, "More LaRue." And it's true, when you get into writing your story, some characters and events in your life, if you listen to them and you're open to that process, they're going to rise up to the top and say, "This is important. This person's important. This event is important." And other stuff that maybe at the time you thought was important isn't so. And LaRue was that for me. And so the answer to your question is yes, and yes, she was a huge part of our lives, you know, outside the book. And yes, she does play a really enormous role in the book. She gives it a gravitas, you know, she centers that book.
It's a place where our philosophy comes out.
Yeah. And a wonderful character that if I was writing fiction, I would have invented her. Since it's nonfiction, I'm glad I didn't have to.
Those letters seem almost in a different voice. Was that
Yeah.
intentional?
They were, because they were more for her and to share. So it had more of a light kind of postcardy voice at times, but then other times it would go into more philosophical things. When she passed away, my mother gave me a little small bit of her belongings, and all the postcards and letters were there. So I still have those. Shoot.
When you talk to people, or when people talk to you about their stories, how would you categorize the percentages of stories you hear? Like, which ones are tragic and sad?
Yeah.
What percentage? And what percentage are successful and happy? You know, with good endings. What do you generally see in
the classes and the consulting work I do with people on their books, it's a range. And yeah, some people, you know, I've had some good success with folks who've gone on to have their books published by traditional publishers, and that's been great and fun, and you're proud of those. And you know, others, you can tell it's somebody who's just gone through something and wants to process it, and writing and thinking about it is a really good, therapeutic, healthy way to do that. There's some people who just want to pass stories on to make sure that, you know, kids and grandkids and extended family do it, and then others are just curious about it and they don't know fully. So I think it's a range of all of those, and that's why with the classes we wanted to make sure that, like, hey, look, this is for anybody, right? Even if you're just thinking about the idea, try it out. I've never met anybody who said, "Oh wow, what a waste of time spending, you know, a few hours thinking about my life and writing about my life." You know, it's the reverse. I've met a lot of people who've said, "Yeah, I should have done that. I need to do that, but for whatever reason I haven't." I'd absolutely do it.
As you move in your life journey going forward,
Yeah.
do you see yourself more as a coach and a teacher or a writer?
It's both. I sold another book to St. Martin's that had to do with kids and travel and the road as teacher, and my wife, she's an actress, and it's a feast or famine, and luckily she's been in some feast years. She's on a TV show that shoots in New Orleans for half the year, so that prevents us from a family from doing a lot of travel beyond that. Oscar's getting his share of beignets these days. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to the library for the work that you do. Thank you all for supporting the library and this community. Appreciate you, again, lowering your standards and letting me back in. Cheers.